I'm standing in front of what claims to be Telford's oldest place of worship. You might be thinking it doesn't look that old, but this sleepy little church in Stirchley in Telford hides a secret. Built in the 12th century, this is a great example of a Norman church. I'm Steve from Monumental, and behind me is St James's Church in Stirchley Village in Telford. Stirchley was originally just a small farming parish with a bustling industrial belt along its northwest edge. Although Stirchley was a parish, it was later absorbed by the Dawley Urban District Council and then later by the Telford New Town. Stirchley was the hub of various meeting roads and footpaths connecting various farms. The only main road that crossed the parish was the Dawley to Shifnal road that took its route up over the Nedge Hill. The A442 trunk road skimmed the southern edge of Stirchley, and the parish was divided by the Madbrook. The village of Stirchley was very small in comparison to other villages in the area, so much so that mains electric came in 1933, then followed by piped water in 1944. But the village is a very, very nice, quaint village, and it had its own school, its own post office, its own village shop, a pub, and also two farms that were nearby, Stirchley Grange and Stirchley Hall Farm. Most villages in the area had a place of worship, and this village had a very noteworthy building that is now listed and retained within the heritage of the Telford New Town. When you open the large wrought iron gate to enter the churchyard of St James's Church, the first impression is of a typical small 18th century church. It is built of brick with round arches dressed in local sandstone in a simple neoclassical style, with its west tower and a simple nave. But just take a walk around the side of the church and you'll be meted with a solid mass of sandstone blocks that make up this heavy square chancel. It comes as something of a shock. The tiny narrow windows give the impression of great antiquity. Inside the church you get the same startling contrast. High box pews, a wooden two-decker pulpit, which is very typical of the 1700s, and they are all set against this magnificent Norman arch, carved with three different motifs. The earliest arch dates from around about 1150. Architectural evidence shows that Stirchley Church may be of the Norman period and dates from the 12th century. However, it has also been suggested that the chancel arch may actually be Anglo-Saxon. The chancel is the oldest visible part of the building and probably dates from about 1150. It is almost square and has a small round arch windows. The old masonry on the inner face of the nave and the tower walls is also likely to be 12th century. The work may have been financed by the first recorded Lord of the Manor, Osbett of Stirchley, who was under tenant here from 1167 to 1180. The ornate late 12th century chancel arch is set in a much larger and earlier arch, probably of the mid 12th century. The stone used is local sandstone, and this is a particularly fine chancel arch with two orders of shafts with scalloped and foliage capitals and three orders of arches with rosettes and a chain link zigzag patterns. I hope that made sense to you. In other words, it's very ornate. No church would not be a church without stained glass windows, and both windows here are Victorian and Edwardian and probably by Clayton and Bell of London. But these stained glass windows were actually bought from the nearby Burwarton Church when it closed in 1975. As we move on to the 18th century, in 1740, during the incumbency of William Banks, the stone nave was encased and remodelled in red brick, with dressings of sandstone in a contemporary neoclassical style. It was a scenario that was taking place all over the country at the time, A new roof was erected and a flat plaster ceiling installed. The stone tower was also encased in brick and heightened at one stage with a wooden bell frame that dates from 1748, although the three bells are very much older, dating from 1410, 1594 and 1664. From 1683 to 1748, the manor of Shrewsbury was in the hands of the close family of Stirchley Hall. The last member of that family was Thomas Close. He had no successors, and it may be that it was him who instigated and financed what must have been the most expensive alterations to the church. The dedication to St James is known from this time, but we don't know whether it was a new dedication or a continuing dedication. As we move into the early 19th century, the lower of the two original east windows was replaced with a single large one, and in 1838 the local ironmasters Thomas, William and Beriah Botfield provided 120 new sittings by constructing a brand new north aisle. The Botfield family were local industrialists in the area, owning collieries, blast furnaces and many other industrial ventures. Thomas Botfield invested money from their own business into Stirchley Church to look after his own workforce and the poor people of the Stirchley parish. The Botfield influence in Stirchley Church has never ever been forgotten, and so much so the Botfields have a family tomb in St James's churchyard. During the preceding years of the 1900s, a few alterations were made. Nothing major, the odd window here and there. Also, the laying of some Jackfield tiles were also laid in the hall of the rectory. So, moving on, the church unfortunately became abandoned and became redundant and was sold to Telford Development Corporation in 1978, and they restored it in 1979 as a museum. During the restoration in 1979, the plaster was removed from the east wall of the nave and some small areas of late medieval wall paintings were exposed. The church was handed over to the Churches Conservation Trust in 2006 and the roof was made good, and the building is now in a very good state of preservation. So it's really clear that St James's Church in Stirchley Village is a very, very old church dating back to the 1100s. I hope you've enjoyed the tour. To me, this church is absolutely monumental.